Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I am Musfika, reporting for TV JEERA. Farmfresh, a Malaysian dairy brand, is considering Norway as a potential market for international expansion. While Norway offers strong purchasing power and stable economy, entering this market requires careful evaluation. To determine whether this is a smart move, we will take a brief look at the Norway's country background and the risks that may affect the Farmfresh expansion strategy. Norway is a country with a small population with 5.64 million but have a large land area which is 385,000 square kilometers. The population is slightly male-dominated with Christianity as the main religion. Politically, Norway practices a constitutional monarchy with a parliamentary democracy led by King Harald V and Prime Minister Jonas Gahr Store. Norway uses the Norwegian krone, a strong and stable currency. Norwegian is the main language, but English is widely spoken. The country is among the top 10 wealthiest nations globally, with a high GDP per capita and strong purchasing power. Free healthcare, education, and job security contribute to its high living standard and happiness. Economically, Norway is driven mainly by the service sector, followed by manufacturing, while agriculture plays a smaller role. It is a part of major global trade organizations such as the FTA and WTO, providing good access to European markets.
Assalamualaikum, my name is Nurul Hanis. I will talk about cross-cultural risk. We will first explore the key cultural differences that could affect Farmfresh operation in Norway. 1. Cross-cultural risk when Malaysia companies operate in Norway relates to differences in power distance. Malaysia has a very high power distance index score of 104, meaning hierarchy is strongly respected. Decisions are usually made at the top. Subordinates rarely challenge authority, and communication with managers is formal and indirect. Norway has a very low PDI score of around 31, reflecting a culture that values equality, flat hierarchies, and open participation. Employees are encouraged to question decisions, express disagreement openly, and communicate informally with managers, who are generally seen as equals rather than superiors. Another key of cross-cultural risk is communication style. Malaysians typically use indirect and diplomatic communication to maintain harmony and avoid confrontation. However, Norwegians value direct, honest, and factual communication. They expect opinions to be stated clearly, even when disagreeing, and may view indirect speech as unclear or evasive. As a result, Malaysians may perceive Norwegian as rude, while Norwegians may interpret Malaysian communication as lacking transparency. This can lead to misinterpretation, miscommunication, and strained working relationship if not managed properly. From a country risk perspective, these cultural differences affect management style. Norwegian workplace emphasize consultation, consensus building, and employee autonomy.
Now let's turn to Norway's country risk profile, focusing on political, economic, and legal factors. Starting with political risk, Norway remains one of the lowest political risk countries globally, with strong democratic institutions and a zero-tolerance approach to corruption. However, moderate political risk exists through its relationship with the European Union. As a part of the EEA, Norway must adopt many EU regulations across trade, environment, and social policy without voting power in EU decision-making. This made Norway a rule taker, and rejecting EU rules can risk restricted market access. For Farmfresh, this means a highly stable operating environment with some regulatory uncertainty driven by EU policies beyond Norway's control. Moving to economic risk, Norway is experiencing elevated inflation of around 6.4%, well above the central bank's 2% target. This is driven by strong domestic activity, a tight labour market with rising wages, higher energy and input costs, and a weaker Norwegian krone, increasing import prices. To counter inflation, the central bank has raised interest rate rapidly, contributing to slower economic growth. For Farmfresh, this presents a risk of higher operating costs, increased financing expenses, and pressure on consumer purchasing power. Legal and regulatory risk. Norway has a very low legal risk, supported by a strong rule of law, an independent judiciary, and transparency enforcement of regulation. However, regulatory risks exist due to Norway's alignment with European Union food laws. While Norwegian food regulations are highly harmonized with EU standards, Norway applies additional national requirements, particularly in food safety, labeling, agricultural protection, and imports control. These rules are strictly enforced by the Norwegian Food Safety Authority. For farm fresh, this means a legally secure market, but one where compliance costs, documentation requirements, and approval timelines are high, requiring careful regulatory preparation when entering the Norwegian market.
Now, let's move to financial and currency risk. From the outside, Norway's economy often looks like a fortress of stability because the financial risk and currency risk in Norway are generally considered low compared to many countries. Firstly is currency fluctuation. The value of Norway's currency, the Norwegian krone, depends a lot on oil price because Norway earns much of its money from selling oil. When oil price go up, Norway make more money, so more people want the NOK to buy its oil, and the currency becomes stronger. When oil price go down, Norway earns less and fewer people need the NOK, and the currency becomes weaker. This means that NOK can fluctuate a lot depending on how the oil market changes. A weaker NOK can increase import and operating costs, while a stronger NOK can make a farm fresh product more expensive and less competitive. This fluctuation creates uncertainty in pricing, profit, and long-term financial planning. Next is interest rate change. Changes in Norway's interest rate can affect the value of the Norwegian krone. If the central bank raises rate, the NOK may strengthen because investors want higher returns. If rate falls, the NOK may weaken, creating risk for business and investors dealing with foreign currency. Additionally, it will increase the cost of imports and creating uncertainty in pricing and profit margin for farm fresh products. Last but not least is global economic downturn. It happens when many countries' economies slow down at the same time. For Norway, this can cause problem because it sells many products like oil, gas, and seafood to other countries. If other countries buy less during a downturn, Norway's export earn less money, and company may make a lower profit. At the same time, foreign investors may become cautious and invest less in Norway, which can slow down economic growth and create uncertainty in market. This situation can reduce consumer spending power, leading to lower demand for farm fresh products and slow sales growth. As a result, farm fresh may face lower revenues, tighter competition on price, and high risk when planning expansion, investment, and long-term operation in the Norwegian market.
Assalamualaikum. My name is Norway Sarah. So let's move on to the commercial risk. Before that, what is the meaning of commercial risk? Commercial risk refer to the possibility of difficulties for the business to achieve sales, profit, and market acceptance due to the market condition, cost structure, and competitive pressure in a foreign country. The first commercial risk is the limited demand market due to the population of Norway that only has around 5.6 million. Compared to a larger market such as Malaysia, the total number of potential consumers is smaller, which limits sales growth in volume. Even though per capita dairy consumption in Norway is high, the overall demand remains low, which will result in market saturation when many dairy brands compete for the same consumer. Secondly, Norway has a high-cost business environment. Labor costs in Norway were expensive as wages, labor protection law, and social security contribution are among the strongest in Europe. For example, hiring factory workers, farm operators, or logistics staff significantly increase the operating costs. Production and farming costs are also higher due to the strict health, safety, environmental, and animal welfare regulation. such as low antibiotic use and sustainability compliance. In addition, selling meat is costly because of high retail rent, strong retailer bargaining power, and high marketing and distribution expense, raising the cost of market entry. Finally, Farm Fresh faced the strong competition from the established local dairy brands, which is Tyne SA, the largest dairy cooperative in Norway. Tyne enjoys a strong brand loyalty, nationwide distribution, and have a close relationship with retailer. Tyne, supported by cooperative and protected by import tariff on dairy product, this local brand make it difficult for the foreign company, which is Farm Fresh, to gain the shelf space and build consumer trust, especially in the early stages.
So, after weighing all the risks from culture to currency, from competition to cost, should Farm Fresh enter Norway? Our verdict is yes, but not in the way you might think. But before I continue, let me introduce myself. Hi, my name is Muhammad Daniel Fahmi bin Asman, 2320715. So, let us continue. We are not recommending Farm Fresh simply export milk to Norway. That will mean fighting for a shelf space against giants like Tyne in a small, saturated and fiercely competitive market. Instead, we say go by becoming a farmer in Norway. Why? Because Norway's challenges such as the high cost, the strict rules, the protected agriculture sector are exactly what make Norwegian dairy so trusted worldwide. By partnering locally to produce here, Farm Fresh can turn Norway standards into its own competitive edge. This isn't about selling to Norwegians. It's about producing with Norwegians and selling Norwegians quality dairy under the Farm Fresh brand to the world, especially in premium markets like Asia and the Middle East. The risks are real, but they can be managed through partnership, through focus, and through a clear long-term vision. So, how should Farm Fresh enter? Our strategy is built on 3 words: partner, produce, and export. First, partner. Farm Fresh should form a joint venture with Norwegian's farming cooperative, possibly even with Tyne itself. This gives Farm Fresh what it cannot easily get alone, which is access to land, government subsidized production quotas, and decades of local farming expertise. The Norwegian partner runs the farm. Farm Fresh brings the investment and the global vision. Second, produce. Together, they operate a dedicated halal certificate premium dairy farm right here in Norway. This farm meets and even exceeds Norway's world-leading standard for animal welfare, sustainability, and food safety. Third, export. 100% of the milk produced will be branded as Farm Fresh Nordic and exported to high-value markets in Asia and the Middle East. This way, Farm Fresh completely avoids the tough local competition and turns Norway's high cost into a premium price tag overseas. So in short, Farm Fresh doesn't just enter Norway. It becomes part of Norway's farming excellence and take that story global. So that's all from us. Thank you and Assalamualaikum.